The snowflakes were like tiny daggers, piercing their skin as the group of survivors trudged through the snow. They had only been on the move for a few hours, but already their feet felt like blocks of ice, and their cheeks were pinched and red from the chill of the winter air. The group had been on the road for 2 weeks now, ever since the nuclear fallout had changed the world as they knew it. They had scavenged what supplies they could on their journey, but resources were scarce and the winter had taken hold of the land with a ferocity that none of them had ever seen before. The group had no choice but to push on, even though the cold seemed to be getting worse with each passing day. They had heard rumors of a safe haven somewhere to the north, and they were determined to find it. They trudged through the snow, their breath forming white clouds in the air. The further north they traveled, the more intense the cold became. Ice had formed on their clothing and their weapons, and the snow was so deep that it was becoming increasingly difficult to make any progress. They had been walking for hours when they finally came across a small cabin nestled in a clearing. The group's spirits lifted at the sight of it, knowing that this could be their salvation from the cold. They hurried to the cabin, pushing open the door to find a warm, inviting interior. The walls were lined with shelves of canned foods and other supplies, and there were beds and couches scattered about. The group quickly set about making the cabin their own. They scavenged as much firewood as they could find, then built a fire in the hearth. They spread the beds with blankets and scavenged whatever clothing and supplies they could find. Once they had settled in, they huddled around the fire, grateful for the warmth. They talked about their journey and their plans for the future, but most of all they just enjoyed the comfort of being out of the cold. The group stayed in the cabin for days, relishing every moment of warmth and safety. Eventually, the supplies began to run low, and the group knew that it was time to move on. They had heard of a settlement to the east, and they decided to make their way there. As they packed up their supplies, they all felt a strange sense of sadness at leaving the cabin. It had been a refuge from the cold, a place of warmth and safety. The group continued on their journey, their pace slow but steady. The cold seemed to follow them, but at least they were out of the snow. They eventually reached the settlement, and it was just as they had heard. The settlement was a bustling hub of activity, and the group was welcomed with open arms. They were given food and clothes, and they found work quickly. The group settled into a routine of work and rest, and the winter passed. With each passing day, the cold seemed to ease, and eventually the snow melted away. As the spring sun shone down, the group could finally breathe a sigh of relief. They had survived the cold and the winter, and now they could look forward to a brighter future. They had found a place to call home, and they had no doubt that they would make it through whatever else came their way. Yay, the end. Oh right, yeah, I have to do this stuff now. Like, comment and subscribe. And please watch my other videos and comment ideas on stories.